Welcome back to Cinema Flicks and Music Picks. I'm Davey, your host with the most, the beast with the least. And the least we can do today, folks, is have a look at the brand new Neil Young record with Crazy Horse entitled Toast. Now, for those who know, and I'm assuming it's going to be a good chunk of people that watch a video about a Neil Young album, Toast was an unreleased album from 2001 with Crazy Horse. This is Toast Studios, a rundown, dilapidated old studio that was recorded in. Neil scrapped the album, as is his want, saying it was too raw, too personal, took him to a dark place, similar to as we've seen with other scrapped albums from Neil in the past. So this is the first release of it, of course, but it's kind of a hodgepodge of things that the Neil Young diehard will already know, plus. So if you're wondering why I had a very random bit of bread in the thumbnail, it's because this is plain bread. This is toast. This is Are You Passionate, which is the album that a lot of this would subsequently be recorded for. So that kind of gives you my overview of where I'm going with this already. This is a much more well-developed, well-rounded album, a much more Neil Young album. But we'll go into that. We'll go into that in a few moments. Let's have a look at it first of all. So again, lovely cover. Toast Studio is very looks, it's got lovely bright look, even though it was horrible and dilapidated. Here's your reverse here with 7 tracks, 3 sides of a wax. Lovely gatefold. Wait to see this. Oh yeah. Shaky himself. And so drums and percussion, of course. So you're talking Crazy Horse Circuit 2001 here. So it's your longest running Crazy Horse lineup. Ralph, Billy, and Poncho. So you've got Ralph Molina, Billy Talbot, Pancho Sombrero, Neil, obviously. Tom Bray does some trumpet on here. Vocals are by Neil, Ralph, Billy, Pancho, and Astrid, Neil's sister, and Peggy Young, Neil's ex-wife, now the late Peggy, right? Peggy Young. Yeah, Nico Bolas, of course, is on here doing some editing work. It's produced by Neil with John Hanlon, so it isn't the volume dealers on this one. Elliot Roberts, of course, always gets his mention. Special thanks to Rick Rubin. So front, back, and inner sleeves were by Hannah Johnson, and the inside spread by Ebert Roberts. So nice and I don't want to say plain because that all sounds like these days it sounds like you're criticizing something, but it's just a nice polyline sleeve. Nothing fancy, doesn't need splatter vinyl, nice. There we go. So 3 sides of that kind of stuff, and then of course we get our lyric sheet, which is an insert. You can put one of the records in here if you want, but they kept it separate and gave you a polyline sleeve, which I like, so you don't ruin, because these can get seam splits really easily, obviously in transit. So yeah, full lyrics for this. Interestingly, it doesn't actually break them up. It just gives you the lyrics without breaking up paragraphs for songs. So it doesn't say this is where one ends and one starts, which kind of gives you the idea that it's a piece. It's not meant to be 7 tracks. It's a piece, which is why Neil probably re-recorded, rather than just took the 4 Crazy Horse songs and then did some more and made up a different album. The ones that he wanted to keep for Are You Passionate. Probably explains why he wanted to go back and re-record them, because these were always intended to be 7 songs together. Hype sticker, we always keep these, folks. So 7-track Crazy Horse 2001 studio album, 6 unreleased tracks, 3 unreleased songs. So again, 6 unreleased tracks doesn't sound too impressive until you remember it's a 7-track album. And believe me, none of them are exactly the same anyway. So this is in the special release series, of course, which is kind of part of Neil's ongoing archive series spin-off, and then there's the bootleg series to spin off from that as well. But yeah, this is number. God, my is getting worse. 9. I can't even read that. Off to have questions with me, folks. Anyway, three sides of wax I mentioned. Now it's rather. I did say there was no gimmicks on this, but if you're going to have an empty side of vinyl, rather than put on some filler and break up the cohesion of an album that was always intended to be a piece, you may as well do some kind of flair. And I hope this picks up. Yeah, there you go. If I hold it just to that, yeah, you get some engraving there. So the classic Crazy Horse logo. Love the stuff. Yeah, of course, this side's side 3. Delicately put that down. Rather than fidget about, because when I have to put records back in the sleeve on a video, that's when I invariably spend 5 minutes going, this won't fit. The album itself, now when it's a Neil Young release, I always go a little bit more in depth. It's only 7 tracks, and most of these are well known to Neil Young fans, so I don't think I need to go too in depth. So it's very much in the vein of homegrown, not musically, but in terms of the feel of it being too personal and raw for Neil to want to put out into the public gaze. You can see why, even in the playing, even if this was an instrumental piece, you can almost feel why Neil wouldn't want to have it exposed. It's very raw nerve of an album, despite the fact that it's Crazy Horse is usually considered more of an outlet for the more rocking side, and his acoustic things are more considered an outlet for the more personal, introspective stuff. Not the case here, not the case at all. So, a few of the tracks on here: "Going Home," "Quit," "How You Doing," and "Boom Boom Boom," were redone for as I said, Are You Passionate with Booker T? So quite a different record, much more soul record in the Static tradition, as you'd expect with Booker T. A couple of them were renamed. So How You Doing became Mr. Disappointment. Boom 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 became She's a Healer. And to various extents reworked. Two of the other three, Standing in the Light of Love and Gateway of Love, were done on the European tour of 2001 with the Horse. So again, we've heard Crazy Horse do these if you're a Neil Young diehard and you know your boots. The Crazy Horse version of Quit that opens Toast rather than the one on Are You Passionate? I keep forgetting the name of it. It's not a lot different, but it has a much more melancholy mood. It's got a lovely melody. This groove, boom, boom, boom. Billy's playing this lovely groove underpinning it. It's not a Crazy Horse rocker to kick things off. If anyone's coming in here expecting, oh, this is the punch era of Crazy Horse, so it's going to be frenetic. No, you will get a bit of that, but don't expect it throughout the record. It's not that. Yeah, it's got a lovely melody. Really, really sweet premise. He's very haunted by his relationship breaking up, and he's admitted in Waging Heavy Pieces, his autobiography, that the album was explicitly about his breakup with Peggy, or a difficult time with Peggy, which subsequently led to the breakup. So I mean, it's called. Excuse me, I lost my train of thought. There, it's called Quit, but you could be for forgiven for thinking it's called Don't Say You Love Me, because that's very much the repeated refrain from the song. Don't say you love me with this. It does go into parts about quit, and it is about don't quit me, baby, that old blues standard. It's got that's basically the message, but it very much has a wistful pained quality, and you can immediately see why this is just much more personal. Yeah, I mean, you wouldn't expect this version of Crazy Horse to have this kind of melancholy, but no, that's not fair. They can definitely do melancholy, but this very romantic melancholy, I don't think is associated with this era of Crazy Horse. You know, you'd expect maybe if News was in the band, something like that, but yeah. The rhythm section again, fantastic, of course. Um, Everything's pretty much in place for Are You Passionate? Neil's guitar is absolutely scorching, as you imagine, even when he's just doing a little lick or two. The Some of the other tracks, I mean, Going Home, How You Doing, they're quite similar to um, How You Doing is the only track on Are You Passionate, which did feature Crazy Horse instead of the MGs. And it does sound a bit like that version, of course, because it's the same players playing the same song, but it's absolutely beautiful in this version, where it's not in Are You Passionate? So you'd think, well, if it's the same arrangement and same players, how can it sound different? Well, if anyone knows Are You Passionate? Neil sings it in this kind of Tom Waits growl that he affected, whereas on this, he doesn't. He sings it in Neil's, you know, traditional high tenor, which is gorgeous. It lends the track a real deep feeling that isn't on Are You Passionate's version, because you're constantly thinking, why is he doing this kind of deep Hellamo attempt, this Captain Beefheart like thing, which is just not new. I guess because he was inhabiting a character at the time, and I think it's very telling that the next project after this that he would release with Crazy Horse would be Greendale, where he gets to invent characters. So on an album with the horse where he's worried about being too personal, being too overtly himself, um, he literally creates a town and creates characters so that it doesn't have to be Neil Young. I think there's something telling in that maybe we didn't pick up on just through hearing Greendale, which I always thought was a terrific album, terrifically underrated by a lot of Neil Young fans. I love all versions of it. The acoustic live in Dublin. I love the Return to Greendale. I love the movie. But I love the comic book. But that's that's my boggle. um, yeah, so I mean, it's terrific. The terrific stuff on Going Home. How you doing? Again, you wouldn't expect the horse to be able to do something as soulful as these kind of tracks, but they do manage it easily. There's this wonderful groove, so it's quite clear that these guys were a lot more versatile with Pancho in the band than a lot of people maybe give them credit for. There's always the school of thought that the Danny Whitney era was a more traditionally rock band who could pull off things like the country ballads as well as seen on their debut album. And then there's the sense that Niels Lofgren, now that Pancho's retired and Niels has joined the band, maybe semi-permanently, that Niels is a better player. And he is on paper, but Pancho's second to nobody in this. Like everything here is soulful as anything. And when something doesn't sound pristine, it never sounds like it's ragged glory. It never sounds sloppy crazy horse. It sounds like, are you passionate the next year? It actually sounds like, are you passionate? So not the album, but it sounds like passion. So if there's any flubs, it's because they're just into their playing, and it's raw. Any mistakes are staying in here. We're not doing the big overdub stuff here. So a bit rough around the edges, but yeah. Um, Surprisingly slick for the Crazy Horse, but not slick by anyone else's standards. Um, there are again 3 songs that didn't make the cut for Are You Passionate, and I don't think it's fair to say that they didn't make the cut because they're not great songs. Because geez Louise, they absolutely are. So they appear as studio versions on here for the first time. Standing in the Light is a very much it's got this great riff, and it's almost like a barroom bluesy thing. Not much songwriting wise, but it's got a great riff, a great repeating vibe, quite hypnotic. And really sucks you. And it's one of those great tracks to put in the middle of a record just to kind of keep the momentum going with a riff that repeats. There's quite a few tracks on this that are really riff heavy. That you wouldn't think from such a personal record the way Neil's talked about it and the way we heard the live versions over the years. It didn't sound as painful and as personal in those versions as Neil said, but it does when you hear it like this. Um, the Timberline is the only song that nobody's heard before because it wasn't played live and wasn't reused on Are You Passionate. That's a kind of hard rocking thing. Really cool lyrics. It's about a logger who's put out of work and turns on God, Jesus, for not answering his prayers. In fact, not just not answering them, but making his life worse. Quite interesting to hear Neil taking on that kind of persona in this track because although he's obviously not a working man in that sense, you can imagine Neil's praying for something different and him being answered in the context of this album. It's his relationship stays together. So you know, Neil doesn't talk about religion very much. It was quite interesting to see inject a little bit of that in here. I thought it was. I thought it was. It's not a brilliant song, but it's a very interesting one for Neil to write. It's one of those kind of. I didn't expect that from you, Neil. Thank you for that. That's really cool. The so that was Timberland Gateway of Love, easily the best of the unreleased tracks for my money. It's a real 10-minute epic, Crazy Horse style. There's a kind of Latin rhythm beat. It's almost samba like on the drums, but that doesn't overtake the style of the actual track. It's still very much a Crazy Horse workout, but with a very different beat. And just tinkering that one thing gives it a totally different feel, totally different vibe. Which again I think Crazy Horse here are musically miles ahead of where people normally expect from them. It's terrific stuff. And I almost feel sorry that it's Pancho's now retired and isn't going to reap the benefits of some of the praise that he deserves for a lot of the stuff on here. In the let's see, so that was the next one. So my notes were a bit all over the place because I was writing them about 3 in the morning this morning. I've listened to this about 10 times since it came. By the way, I listened to the high res stream first because the postie didn't come yesterday, and then at 7 o'clock last night, the vinyl came, and I was like, "Wow!" Listen to it. Sounds quite different actually. The high res audio versus the vinyl. Obviously, it's a warmer sound, but the high res audio does give it a clarity. Of course, it is quite a different listening experience, which I thought was quite interesting. Which, yeah, so you get 2 albums for the price of one if you get it right. So see, yeah, so we dealt with Gateway Love there. Kind of easy to see why Neil maybe thought they didn't fit in with the lovelorn quality. If he's suddenly talking about the logger and God and things, but they're definitely worth the context of the album, and it stops it from being of of one feel of one groove. Boom 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 is the closer. Oh, excuse me. Listen to that ambulance blues. Shouldn't joke. Could be serious. Oh no, wait. It's only the police. We'll let them go. It's only the police. They've not caught me yet, don't worry. So yeah, I mean Boom 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 is totally different from She's a Healer, even though it's essentially the same track. So She's a Healer was the centerpiece of Are You Passionate? 9 minute long, epic. But this is 13 minutes long. But it isn't just, it's 4 minutes longer. It's got much heavier, but also much jazzier feel to it, which you wouldn't expect. So that it feels like a blues. And when I say that, I don't mean something about Williamson. I don't mean it sounds like Neil's doing chess records. I mean it feels like an actual broken-hearted blues in this version. It sounds like desolation. There is something that happens when you put Booker T's organ on in Are You Passionate, which gives it a sheen, a quality. We're all familiar with the stack sound. So it gives it that familiarity and tenderness. We know it from all those great, Aretha, Solomon, Burke, whoever, Wilson Pickett, whoever you want to name from Stax, when Booker T themselves, Booker T and the MGs. So replacing that here, not having Booker T play, gives it a much, much more barroom feel, but not barroom as in, it sounds like a rave up. Barroom as in it sounds like the end of the night, and this band are playing the saddest song they could possibly think of in the roof. It's absolutely sensational. It almost sounds like Neil's falling to pieces on it, which again is very much a state of mind. It seems from reading his book. It's about an attachment to a woman who is on the verge of leaving him. So it's rather overt. You know, God rest her, Peggy did leave, and he's happy with Daryl now. But unfortunately, Peggy's passed on. Again, just like the "Don't Say You Love Me" from Quit from the start, this also has a line that's repeated, which is "There ain't no way I'm going to let the good times go." He did. Yeah. So yeah, can't you just see why you would throw this in the back burner and say, hmm. So it's a desperation call. It's not just, oh, I'm writing a soul song. Like a lot of people thought, including myself, I must admit at the time, on Are You Passionate? This is very much Neil Young's soul being bared, more so than even for Neil. It's a true epic, and not epic in the way that like a hurricane, or insert epic here, Cowgirl in the Sand, Cortez the Killer. Not that kind of epic. Epic in terms of scope and emotion and space, and what he's putting out. But it's that kind of epic rather than just a musical epic. So it's not Rust Never Sleeps, or Live Rust. It's not that kind of bombast epic. It's epic in terms of, again, just what he's putting out emotionally. It's quite overwhelming, which just fantastic. So yeah, again, quite just a great groove. Punch was so wonderful on it with great upbeat. Um, God, it's hearing Peggy singing the "Don't Hear You Love Me" parts when you know the relationship is going down the tubes. It's hard to listen. Standing in the light of love is heavy, heavy, heavy stuff to kick in. I'm just kind of going back through them just to reiterate because I made some more comprehensive note. Um, just to kind of sum up, it's no real big solo. It's not that kind of new young trap, but it's just a really heavy vibe to it. And that is a kind of more traditionally Crazy Horse uh, grinder. It feels slightly more akin to something off of Ragged Glory, or perhaps more freedom, something like that. But then going home, just some of Neil's best lyrics in a long, long time. Um, it fades out, which I could have used another 5 minutes, but 10 minutes, why not? I'm sure we will in live versions if he brings it back. Again, I kind of covered Timberline, my thoughts on that. I kind of went on a bit of a tangent about that Gateway of Love, with that instrumental groove and everything with the polyrhythmics. Some of the strumming on it, even it's like acoustic being playing in the background, but played as a lead. How you doing is just, if you only take one thing away, it's that how you doing is just how you doing and going home. That's your two homework assignments if you want to just here. With Boom Boom Boom, if you want a bit of a downer to go along with it. So, but to be honest, the whole record's recommended. Boom Boom Boom. It's just you couldn't follow that. I just made a joke about Ambulance Blues as the sirens blasted, but you couldn't one up that in terms of the mood of the album, the atmosphere of the album. So you have to use that as a closer, just like Ambulance Blues, because that's such a desolation roll of a song that you have to end on. Excuse you. So I think the only way was down after that. So yeah, like I say, taking out Booker T and adding in some trumpet from Mark gives that very different sound. I don't want you to think it's trumpet like an upbeat horn section. It's a very kind of uh, New Orleans jazz, sad trumpet. So it's very melancholy. It fits very much in keeping with the mood. So this, to me, if you're thinking unreleased Crazy Horse records, this must be, you know, whatever, the new Ragged Glory, the new insert favorite Crazy Horse record here. No, 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 no. This is more of a piece with something like Sleeps with Angels. It's dark, it's melancholy, it's brooding, it's intense, it's moody. It's a Saturday night record in a different way. So it's not the Saturday night where you're partying and you want to rock out. It's a Saturday night where you've got no money, no plans, you feel down, and Neil's here to kind of share his journey with you. Journey through the past, as it turns out, 21 years later. But yeah, as always, I've kind of went on a ramble with this, but I always do with Neil Young videos. You kind of, I've got a lot of favorites, but Neil always finds a way to really just hit me here. Nothing ever sounds fake. Nothing ever sounds even slightly conceited. Nothing sounds false. It always sounds entirely deliberate, 100% genuine, and musically and sonically and emotionally satisfying. Even the much derided Geffen years, none of those sound like he's phoning into me, and regardless of what you think about the actual quality, regardless of whether or not you think, oh, well, he only did the rockabilly record, everybody's rocking just to stick it to Geffen. It still sounds like he was trying his best to make a rockabilly record to me. I just think Neil's he's so musical, he's so poetic, and he's so soulful, not in the Booker T sense, but soulful in the emotional sense, in the heart sense, that he couldn't, if he wanted, be false. He couldn't try and make a Neil Young record. He just has to make a Neil Young record. And if it isn't quite what he's looking for, away it goes. And you might see it again one day. The Wanderer. I love it. I wouldn't trade him for the world. But yeah, as always with many Young videos, you know, these just end up as rambles, but just take away from it this. This is a fantastic record, a wonderful tribute to a great lineup of Crazy Horse finally getting their day in the sun after this album was rumored and then confirmed in 2008ish or so. And we knew that some stuff had been recorded and then re-recorded, but how much we knew some tracks had been played live. And, oh, we want to hear more of that. Are You Passionate was a bit of a letdown. We thought, maybe we don't want to hear it. No, we've heard it. Thank you, Neil. Thank you to the horse. Thank you to Peggy. Thank you to everyone at Archives. Yeah, just it's a sequel to Homegrown in a totally different way because that was his acoustic breakup record with another one. This is his electric breakup record with Peggy, and gosh, I can only imagine the mixed feelings he must have had actually deciding to release this at long last, because knowing that Peggy's left, it's must have had a whole different set of challenges, rather than just she's now my ex-wife. She's now my ex-wife and has passed on from cancer. So I hope that it's brought Neil some kind of catharsis, and I hope it brings Neil's fans some kind of catharsis as well. Any Neil Young music brings me catharsis, and God knows there's always enough of it coming. We've got the 2019 live record in a few weeks, and we've got a hell of a lot more to come over the next year. So I'll wrap it up there. I've been rambling long enough, and for me, that's saying something. Listen, take care of yourselves and each other. Stay very safe out there. Love and mercy, my friends. Love and mercy. Keep on rocking in the free world.